Hey everybody. Uh, wow, we're back again. This time today, I thought I'd show you guys something different. I was actually planning on doing a live stream today, but when I went to YouTube and tried to stream, turns out I need 50 subscribers. I'm not going to ask you to do that. I don't even assume that anyone's going to watch this, but I didn't know that until I wanted to do it. So I guess I'm just going to have to wait on that. But the whole point of that stream or this video is I wanted to show you guys, anyone that is interested in, how to make one of these. Now, if you haven't seen the other videos or have no clue what this is, it's a toy, but it's a professionally made fingerboard obstacle. I like to call them obstacle dioramas. You can call it whatever you want. It's for fingerboarding. That's it, right? So, we have our little space here, play around, maybe do some tricks, some ground tricks, freestyling, and then you can jump over this side or vice versa. You can maybe jump here, grind the rail, jump over this gap rail and over the little fountain. This fountain glows in the dark, right? And it has all these little features like the grass and the brickwork and all that, right? Ivan was able to, is that upright? To put my own little logo and business name, made in the USA. That's where I live. But anyway, I thought, why not show people the process of doing this? To be fair and honest with you, I'm not going to edit this down very much because I wanted to just get it done, The whole point of streaming was that I wasn't going to have to make it so, so cool and sparkly and all these edited things and this funny transition, whatever, not that I'm very good at editing right now, but that's the whole point. Is I just wanted to show you and help you in case you're curious about how you can even make something like this, Anyway, that's enough out of me. I could keep going on and on. I'm sitting down on my little table bench because if I stand up, I'll be outside of the shot. But as you can see a little bit here, I have a whole bunch of these that I have already made and they're ready, right, to be stained. Okay, that's the first thing we're going to do today is stain it. We're just going to color it, and then if once it dries a bit, we'll go ahead and apply a finish so that the stain or the color that we add to it doesn't just rub off on your fingers and everything else it touches, because it will do that. So anyway, the very first thing I'm going to do now that we know what we're getting up to and what we're going to do, is I'm going to tell you the list of I was going to say ingredients. I guess they are sort of ingredients to make something, just not food. Don't eat this. But anyway, let's just get rolling. I'm gonna bring you down a little bit. Sorry that you just had to see my whole hand there. But first of all, you would like preferably glass because it's easier to clean. Container. I got this. This is like a Pyrex dish that has been used and overused, and I barely have use for it in my kitchen. I have mostly amber glass now. It's very nice. It's this orange glass, so I don't really use it. So I use this for mixing paint only. I never have washed this and used it again as a dish. Don't do that. Once you put dye in here, it's basically poison. Don't wash it and use it as for food, okay? So a mixing bowl and preferably a sponge brush of any kind. It could be any brand. This one's already been used a couple of times, you can see. But because of the kind of dye that I use, it's not, it doesn't crust and dry the way that some dyes do. Anyway, container for mixing the dyes. Now, what dyes are we using? Okay, well, first of all, I'm not sponsored. I don't intend to ever be sponsored by anything, but I might take one from this company. They're very good. But again, I'm not sponsored. I'm not being paid at all to say what I'm about to say. I really like this brand. This is the Angelus brand. And if you've heard of this brand before, you might be familiar with like restoring shoes and stuff, because they actually sell very, very good, in my opinion, quality paint for leather shoes. And this is their leather dye. Okay. Now, it even says in the back of the little container that you are free to use it, well, however you want, obviously you bought it, but that its intention, although it is for leather, it's right up here, it can also be used for wood and other applications, even metal. This is an alcohol-based dye. Long story short, you just gotta make sure that when you're mixing dyes and finishes and stuff like that, that they can mix together well. You don't want like different layers of weird looking stuff on your wood because it won't look natural. It won't feel good. I mean, you could do what you want, but this is just what I do. Okay, so we're going to be using these dyes. I use very little black when I'm mixing the ink, which is why I have an open thing of black here, but I have two brand new ones of orange and oxblood, because these are the three colors that I mix in a certain proportion to get sort of this color that you see down here, this sort of mahogany-ish. I mean, that was a spill, that was an accident. But that color you saw on the fingerboard obstacle that I showed you, that's the color we're going to derive with this, okay? Okay, so that's that. We got our mixing bowl, brush to apply, and our dye. We need only a couple more things. The last thing that we need to finish the project will be this finish. I'm using a polyurethane satin finish, which has a small shine to it. It's not very glossy, but it does have a bit of a it's not matte, is what I'm getting at, and it's clear. Okay, so we're going to use this to seal up the dye once it's been mostly dried on this, because as you'll see, while I'm applying this, the dye will rub off on it and it'll stain the finish itself until you add like the second and third layer, you know, which is interesting. This stuff is pretty powerful, so watch out. And then the very last thing for cleanup is alcohol. I just use regular old isopropyl alcohol from, don't want to promote that. And then, sorry, I hit my mic. And then I have some like makeup cotton wipes. They can be pretty pricey, it depends. So these are just some that I have had left over for like over a year now. But now I'm transitioning to dollar store napkins. I unfold them and then I tear them up into their 4 little squares. And I mean, all I need is a cleaning medium, really. So, you know, I get one of these, I fold it up, kind of, well, I'm not going to do it right now, but I fold it up and then I apply alcohol to this and do my cleanup. And it works very well. And I waste very little paper. Not that I'm doing it for any particular reason. It's just, you know, you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on cleaning supplies that you're going to throw away. So just so that you know, you don't have to buy these expensive little pads. You can do other things, you know, as long as it's like a cotton medium of some kind, or like a tree fibers. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So you'll need all that. And something that I highly recommend as a safety protocol is this right here. This is a respirator. You really, really, really want one of these, okay? If you're gonna be doing this, or any kind of spray painting or airbrushing, any kind of particles in the air that are toxic, just wear a mask, man. Anyway, I could preach to you and talk smack and say that you know, you'd be dumb for not doing it, blah, blah, blah. But just so that you know, once I get started, I will be wearing this while I'm applying it. And the reason is because it's actually happened to me before. I just changed these filters out so they don't look anything but white. But when I first replaced these filters, like for the first month after I've been using it for a while, I replaced the filters. These exact same filters, the same kind of filters, but not these, came out to this color. Now you tell me if you want that in your lungs, you know? I personally, I'm not a fan of that idea. I already put enough stuff in my lungs. I don't really need to be putting paint in there. So just so you know, okay, I will be wearing this once I start mixing and stuff. But I think it's a very good idea to have one. I understand that they're not exactly cheap, but I think your life is worth a lot more than what these are, okay? Again, it's not necessary to complete the job at all, but you'll really regret it later, okay? So just wear one. If you work with cement, dust, wood, people don't even know. Sawdust, those are physical fibers that if they get in your lungs, they get lodged in there and they hurt you for a long time. You don't just cough it out. That's not good, man. Anyway, again, I can go on and on, but please be safe if you're gonna do this. I would do this. I wouldn't worry about, although I would wear eye protection if I were you. I'm not going to, because long story short, when you're breathing, you're forcing the particles in. But when you're looking, you know, your eyes bat, they move things away. And my eyes don't hurt when I do this. But I'll tell you what, the one time I did do stuff like this without a respirator, my throat and lungs didn't feel very good. That's what got me to get one of these. So just a warning, okay? I know I've just been warning you for like the last 3 minutes, but please, okay? Anyway, I don't want to be responsible in any way for accidentally hurting you, okay? So yeah, we're gonna just go ahead and get started. I'm just gonna open up these dies just to count them out. They usually come with swabs. You can buy these separately as well. And they're not that, the thing that I like, sorry, I'm rambling. The thing that I really like about these dies is that they're not very expensive. And after you spend a certain amount, I think it is a lot, but like $60 on their website, on Angelus Direct. Again, I'm not sponsored. I don't care if you buy that stuff. It's just what I'm using here if you want to use the same thing, okay? But it's very good and it's relatively, I think, cheap. I bought like 12 of these dies, different colors, of course, for like $30. And it's very scandalous. Like you don't, what I mean by that is that when you pour the dye and you spread it, it spreads wildly. Like it's not a thing like acrylic paint or another kind of paint where you will get some on your brush, and then as soon as you paint something, it's gone. You need to get more paint. This is scandalous as hell. You touch something and it just starts spreading like gasoline on water or something. But anyway, so let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to explain the process before I put this on, so I don't sound like this. Okay, and then we'll just do it. All right. I might speed it up while I'm doing it. Probably not, but we'll see. So what we're going to do is in our mixing bowl, we're going to add a 20-part ratio of these 3 different colors. Now, what is a 20-part ratio? All that means is that if somehow we can separate all the fluid in here into 20 equal parts, how much is black, how much is ox blood, and how much is orange? Well, simply said, I didn't want to share this at first, but why not? Why not? So black, jet black, I only use 1/20 ratio. So like 5% of the liquid in total, okay? That's only because you want to get a dark feature like this right here. You don't want it to be these colors directly because ox blood really looks like spilled blood. And the orange, I'm saying ox blood, but this is orange, sorry. This one really looks like spilled blood, you know, when you just use it normally, which has its own uses and its own appeal, but that's not what we're going for. And then orange gives it a more like a lumber color, you know, like a more woody color than the blood. All is combined, right? So anyway, it's 1 part jet black. I would say about 12 parts ox blood, right, the reddish one. And then the last 7 parts would be orange. So it's mostly ox blood, a tiny bit of black, and then the rest orange, which is like a good third of it, right? Almost. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do, okay? And then when I mix it together, I will test it. I will test the swab on this piece of scrap that I have, and then we'll continue. Now, before I start all that, I almost forgot how to tell you how I even came about making this, right? It's very simple, but because it's very time consuming to glue everything, wait 15 to 20 minutes, clamp it, you know, after it's been clamped, do it again, glue, clamp, wait another 20, 15 minutes, do it again. You know, it's a very long process. To just make 8 of these, which is what I have here, plus this one, it's 8. It took me like 2 days. And that's not because I was not trying. I even had a timer for every 15 minutes. So I was very consistent, but as you can see, I had to glue these 3 boards and the 3 bottom ones, right? And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it is a time-consuming thing that I didn't think you wanted to watch a 24-hour video for. But anyway, I first start like this. I make the 3 boards about 18 inches, and then I glue them together. Okay, like that, right? Now these boards, if you're wondering where I source them, I can also tell you that. And let me actually get one that's down here. Now this is a shorter one, but at my local flea market, there's a man that sells I think they're called trim molds. Long story short, they're not usually this long. They're usually 2 meters long, but because I go on my bicycle, I cut them there with a jigsaw. I electrically cut the wood to a certain size so I can bring it on my bike. But he sells bundles of 2 meter long trims, basically, like molds that go on doors and stuff, like the stuff right there on the edge of the door. He sells those, but he also happens to sell blank ones like this, where they don't have a particular shape or mold to it because he hasn't run it through the machine that makes them have their little design, you know? Anyway, I got a whole bundle of this, like I think 6 2 meter long boards like this. They're only about 1 centimeter thick and about, say, like 5 centimeters wide. So they're quite small, but this is what I use. And it's very cheap for me, at least. $5 for really like 20 of these worth of material. Because I'm not done using all the wood, and these are all done, and I still have plenty of planks like these. So I don't know, like 15, we'll be generous. 15, I can make 15 of these with $5 of wood. You also have to glue them and whatnot, right? But anyway, so you saw, I get this, I cut it down to about 18 inches, as you can see here. It's shorter, and then I glue 3 of them together. And this doesn't have to be perfect on the edge. At least not for me. I think it kind of gives it a little bit of that do-it-yourself park nature, you know? But there's that. And then after I glue those 3 boards together, I cut other boards to size, shorter ones, and I put them on the bottom, right? Put them in here. And that's more for support, because although it does look cool, I like how it looks because of that. It's also so that they have support. I also drill into them, but that's after we do the staining. But yeah, this is for support so that these 3 boards don't just come undone when the glue decides to give up. We put the bases, right? And then we screw in a screw for every single one of these bases. We drive a hole. I'll show you later, but I'm going to drill, and I have a special little bit on the drill that stops me at the perfect spot so I don't go all the way through, because that's pretty rough if you're just doing it by hand. Anyway, so that's enough about all that. Now you know more or less where we're starting. Yes, you can't really go out and buy something like this, but it's very easy to get your own very cheap wood. If you go to probably not a local flea market, I think I'm very lucky to have the man that's there do what he does. But I think your local hardware store, you know, like, I don't want to name any names, but usually there's like scrap yards and stuff like that they might even just give you the wood. But if you're looking for precise sizes and trims, it might cost you a bit. But I mean, door molds on their own, sometimes they sell them without the molding so that you can make your own designs and shapes. And it's very cheap because it's made of like super cheap wood, but it's not flimsy crap wood. It's pretty strong. Like, I can definitely snap it, but it's got it doesn't have as much give, even though there's a huge hole here. I'm bending it at that. It's not, it's sturdy enough to play on. That's all I'm getting at. Anyway, I hope that was informative, because I really waffled on about that. But okay, so there's that. I already showed you how we're gonna mix this. Okay, all right. So the very next step we're gonna do now is I'm gonna put on my respirator, and I won't be talking, but I'm gonna mix this how I told you. I'm gonna do a little bit of swabbing to see if it's the color that I really want. Right? Maybe show it to you, and then we're gonna get right on to just staining this immediately. Okay? All right, let's get going. Okay. Just making sure it's sucking the air from the right spots and not, corners of my face. I really don't like how I sound. So let's just get going. Oh, I forgot one other thing. Gloves. I'll just show you what I'm going to use. You don't have to get expensive ones. But gloves that are tighter on your hands are better, because you have more control and not a whole bunch of loose bits, okay? I'm sorry I didn't say that earlier. The stain, it's not permanent on your skin, but if you get it on your hands, it's gonna be there for like 3 days. You definitely want gloves. I'm so sorry, I completely forgot that. All right, let's get cracking. This has been like 20 minutes of nothing. Let's get it going. You know what? One at a time. I think that's better. That was a bit much, but we'll manage. Oxblood, the most. Remember, about 12 out of 20. Seems about right. And as you can see, it's not very much what I use. We'll see. We'll see how much I make, to be honest. And this is 7 parts out of 20, so it's a bit less of the of like the oxblood, but it's a little too little. I have never made this much before, but I have made this color a lot. So I feel that it's going to be okay the first try. Let's find out. So dip it in. You don't really have to mix it because it's alcohol based. It immediately mixes. But I just like to. But be very careful. It's scandalous. You go a little too hard and the brush will just fling paint everywhere, or dye, sorry. As you look, can you see that? Can you see the drip? Like it just drips ridiculously. It holds on so well. That's the good part about it, but you have to be careful. Okay. So usually we do one even coat. And then we do another. Now if you're looking at this and thinking, man, that doesn't look very much like the other one, and that's because you're correct. This tells me either I need a little bit more black or even possibly more oxblood. So let's go ahead and add that. I'm going to add a little bit more oxblood because I think it needs that extra red inside of it to make it less orangey. But we need the dark to come out because right now it looks very light. So maybe I was wrong and it's 2 parts black. Anyway, let's see how this mix goes. And again, be very careful because you can flick this brush very easily, you know, like a little flick, and the stain will go everywhere. And it's permanent, not on your skin, but on everything else. Okay, so now let's try this spot right here. It wasn't very even, but but we only did 1 coat, so let's wait for it to dry a little. That's the cool thing about alcohol too, is that it dries quite well. Now I do think that we distinctly need more black, I think. Well, it is coming out. It is coming out darker like I want it to, but I think it just needs a little bit more. I'll have to come back to you on that ratio. I was just really guessing from from my previous experience. Okay, and now we're gonna do this side, but the lightish part, right? We'll just do one line. Oh, I'm liking that. I'm liking that. Again, we do two layers or two strokes. I'm gonna grab this one down here, make a solid comparison. No, I'm not liking it. I think it needs more red and more orange. It needs something, man. Perhaps I'm missing the point and it needs more orange. Let's find out. I did darken quite a bit, but let's see. I'm gonna just go with that because I think I'm using a little too much dye now. I'm just gonna go with this one because I like the brownish color and it's a little more vibrant than this. I was afraid it was getting too dull, right? It just looked too blackish, even though I'm not using that much black. But this looks more like a natural brown. So we'll just go with it. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just good. All right. So next step, immediately after, like I said, we're going to put these to the side so that they don't cause problems. We don't, spill them over. And then we're going to move everything to be in perfect harmony. This will be on this side so that we can put this on this side. And what you want to do is have it at an angle like this and go from top to bottom. Because if you go from bottom to top, this will happen sometimes. But also, you will flick the stain everywhere like this. You will do that if you go from the bottom up. You will flick it, and it will go all over your house. No! Anyway, let's get it going. So from top to bottom. Sorry, I got distracted by these little dots I made, and I immediately wanted to paint them. And here we go. Very gently. When you get to the bottom, don't do the, because you're just spilling all the dye you could be using. Very carefully. Try to do as even as a coat as you can, Like if something's already painted right here, don't go over it over and over. Try to do just one line for every piece of white or thing that you want to color in, okay? Now we're going to do this edge right here, okay? Again, I do it at an angle because if I want it flicked, I want it to flick down into my work area, okay? Because it is quite uncomfortable, I'll be honest. Well, not really, but I could just stand up or do it a different way, but I'm showing you like this so that you can have a better understanding, of how the nature of all this dye works. Anyway, now we'll get the bottom step on both sides. Because we're now going to make the other side. And again, the flick goes for you too. If you want the dye on your shirt, then by all means go from away here. How you really want to paint is towards the wood that you're painting on, whatever surface you're on, or at least away from you like this, so that if you flick it, it's not going to stain all your clothes. Or you can also wear an apron, whatever. All right. I'm going to start standing so that I can really get this going because I feel like I'm going too slow. Now, I just did an oopsie right now, and I'm not sure how, but a lot of ink came out of my brush, and it just spilled all over here, and I really don't want it to have all this uneven coloring, so I'm just going to add the second layer already. That's a bit sooner than I wanted, but let's just get it done because I don't want it to come out all blotchy,
You want the color to have a somewhat of a uniformity so it looks natural. It's okay to have imperfections. That's also natural. But like you saw right now, you don't want a huge streak of brown on one side and then light brown on this side. That'll look really weird. Yeah, let's keep going. And as you can see, this really penetrates. I don't know if you could see that. Wow. The stain is going right through the pores of the wood, you know? That's also why it's very important that we seal it when we're done staining and it dries up for a bit. It's very important that we seal it with the finish, because if not, it penetrates anything else that it touches. It'll go right into into your fingers, your clothes. You get it on your fingers, you touch your face. All of a sudden, you got a brown face going, and that's not good. So, so you know. That was a really dumb joke. I apologize if you didn't like it, but you know what I'm getting at. You don't want to make silly mistakes that you can avoid, you know? Like with the stain. Very easy to flick it one way or another and hurt yourself or somebody else. Please be careful, okay? All right, so I'm gonna actually, I don't like this angle here. Now that we've talked about what we're doing and making, I'm gonna have you here. So this is it so far. I try to get coverage everywhere. Now you will see some imperfections here. That's glue. That's wood glue that I either didn't scrape off or it stained here somehow. I spilled it or something, and it remained. Now the glue does get dyed, but because glue has a different color to the wood, it doesn't, it won't go through the same way. It'll be lighter. I don't really care. That doesn't bother me too much. It gives, once we paint over it and put all the little details, it'll be very hard to tell, or even it'll make it look more natural, because again, it's natural to have some little mistakes and imperfections, Not a whole lot, but no big deal. The rest of the piece looks excellent. Make sure you get the edges here in the corners, because you'll paint this and then not really look at this, and there'll just be a huge streak of white. So just be careful, okay? Make sure you get every single edge, nook and cranny. See that? I missed it. Yeah, let's get that going. Just finish, All right. Okay, and that's number one, okay? So I think what I'm gonna do now, instead of you guys watching me do all of the V8 ones, I'll probably cut from here to when I'm finishing the last one. And then after that, we'll go ahead and talk about what the next step is, okay? Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and get going. I'm gonna stop the video here, or I'm gonna cut the video here, and then you'll see me in just a sec finishing the last one of these, okay? All right, see you in a bit. Okay, I'm back. So I finished, I finished staining everything. I took off my gloves and my mask. You can see the red bit there where the mask was resting. But anyway, I'm already done staining the wood. Now I'm waiting for it to dry. So I opened up my doors. I'm letting the air come in so that it can ventilate all the alcohol and dye particles if there's any left. But I set them down on the floor. They're drying on a piece of scrap wood that I have. But anyway, I'm showing you this because I actually wanted to show you my cleanup process, so that you can see how easy it is. So you don't have to be afraid of doing this because, oh man, it's going to be a mess, or I'm not sure how I'm even supposed to clean up. Cool thing about alcohol dyes is that, well, they're alcohol based. So which means that if you rub it with rubbing alcohol and a clean napkin per se, it just comes right off, okay? Especially in smooth surfaces like, say, a glass dish, like what I used. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you at a better angle, sorry. I got these more cheapy gloves because this is for cleanup, not necessarily for using while I'm doing my projects. So I don't need fine detail. You know how there's all this like extra plastic? That doesn't bother me if I'm cleaning up because I'm gonna throw these away anyway.
it'll bother me if I'm doing fine detail and it's all in the way, you know? Anyway, so I have my alcohol here, and like I told you, I was going to fold this into a nice little square. It's just like one of the 4 squares that I tore off a napkin. Make sure you get cheap napkins, not your mom's really nice, fancy, expensive napkins. I got these at the dollar store, so there you go, you know? Anyway, we're going to take our dish and we're going to do the outside first because I know that some of it spills outside. And the more I work with this and start cleaning it, all that's going to get on my gloves. And that's not really a big deal. Like I said, I'll throw them away. But if I'm cleaning it and I'm holding the outside and cleaning it on the inside, and then I finally turn it around and touch it, I'm going to get it all dirty again. So anyway, we did the outside first. That's already a bit of the napkin, but I think we can add a tiny bit of alcohol in here. There you go. Maybe a little more. Actually get a sort of reaction, you know? And then we use the same wipe, and we'll do a very basic, just removal of like the large clumps of paint, like that, right? Because it's still very dirty, but we're not gonna get it more clean. I have a trash right down here that I'm putting stuff in, and then I'm gonna get another clean sheet of, you see how thin and flimsy this is? But you fold it so that it has a bit of strength to it. You know, once you folded it up, you just squirt. You don't squirt a lot because alcohol is very, like I said, scandalous. It just goes everywhere. And you got plenty. It's already soaked. You do want to work somewhat fast. I'm going to work the rim now here. But you do want to work a little fast, not because there's anything unsafe about it just being left there, but it will cake on. And the alcohol dries very fast. So if you pour alcohol in the napkin, as you might be telling already, I'm sort of struggling to take off the bigger stains because the bit of alcohol that I put in here is already reacted and it's already drying up. So I think we need only one last one. This doesn't have to be perfect. I just don't want any dye in there for next time, because what if I have different colors? I don't want them mixing with these colors, especially when they're darker than most of what I ever do, you know? Anyway, I'm just going on and on. See, there's a big, like, orange spat here. I'm not sure. It's really tough, but I'm getting through it. I'm cutting into it with the alcohol. And that's the cool thing about alcohol, because it's a solvent. What that means in chemistry terms is that it literally breaks down and dissolves other chemicals. Not everything. Oh. But I caught it right before it fell. Not everything, but it's very good and it has a lot of uses in chemistry when you're trying to dissolve things. Alcohol, that is. There's other solvents like acetone. I also have acetone and I do work with it. But it's very smelly, and that's not a problem for me. But there's a lot of fumes with it. It's even more flammable than alcohol. It just depends on your application, but I don't mind. I just think that breathing in alcohol lightly is a little safer than breathing in acetone lightly. But it's either or. They're both solvents and they're very good. However, acetone dissolves plastic too. Alcohol does not. Just a word of warning, because if you're wearing plastic gloves of any kind and you get acetone on them, they're going to get full of holes like that. They'll just dissolve. They literally dissolve in the acetone. That's really the main reason I use alcohol. I almost forgot. But anyway, here's our dish. I shouldn't be touching it because even though I cleaned it, there could be residual dye, and it's because of the alcohol. It'll just stick to my hand. Oops. But I wanted to show you that it's more or less clear and clean. See my face through it, and it's not all brownish. So yeah, I just cleaned that up. The brush, sorry, it smacked the mic so much, so I'm sorry. The brush, I'm not going to clean. It's right here. There's no need to do that. The alcohol will eventually evaporate, and if I use it for the same color, I could just keep it. Although it is getting worn down. There's a bit of a, like, it's really, you can't really tell, but there's like a hole there and stuff where it's tearing up. It's had its uses, so I might switch it. I got like 5 of those at the dollar store as well. You know, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money. Anyway, come with me real quick. Let me get you out of here without making too much noise. Yeah. So like, I just want to show you real quick the boards that are here on the floor. This one fell over. I I shouldn't be touching it again, but I'll show you that just touching it. Well, actually, it didn't work the way I thought it would. Just touching it does get some of that paint on you. See that? That's not my finger just being red. That really came from that. But anyway, it usually is a lot worse if you just, I had these all standing up and I just dominoed them. Oh no. Anyway, so I have them basically like this, right? Again, I just messed it up, but I have them set up like this. I'll fix it right now, but I'm gonna let them sit here for an hour and then we'll get back to it, okay? After that hour, I'll just get back with you. Just gonna cut it again, and then you'll get to see me do the finish on it. We'll apply the finish. It's several layers of finish so that you know. And then once the finish is done, or doing all that, then we can like touch them and grab them and do all sorts of stuff without worrying about getting all that dye on us, okay? All right, I'll see you in a bit. I just got the idea that while we're waiting, I thought I could do something that's a little more interesting. Although if you're watching this for a reason, it's already interesting, I hope. But you know, for those of you that are used to maybe seeing me do other things or play games, I could do an unboxing for you instead. Now, it's not a box, but I got this package. It's full of other packages from China, okay? Long story short, I've been trying very hard to just do something of myself, just make a business of some kind and be my own boss, because I've worked very hard for very long and I don't have anything to show for it. I'm not going to get really into that, but it sucks. And I thought, man, if I'm going to be poor and I'm not going to enjoy what I do, I'd rather just be poor and at least like what I do. So anyway, let's just get this open, right? Because you're wondering, well, what are you even talking about? What business? What are you even saying? Well, okay, so we have the fingerboarding thing, right? That's barely taken off. Nobody really knows about me. Okay, so I've been getting into practicing doing things with epoxy, okay? And long story short, I'll do like, here, I have an example here. Now these are quite big and not everyone's taste, but I'll make things like this. These are earrings, right? Clearly. They're made from epoxy and I made them on a mold that I bought that came from China. But I'm doing other things to them that I don't really see get done a lot. Like the epoxy has glow-in-the-dark powder and different glow-in-the-dark powders too. So different colors shine at night once they've been exposed to UV light, right? Or the sun, same difference. Anyway, that's just one thing. I'm trying to make all kinds of jewelry, all kinds of handmade things, but also like little ornaments. Well, I guess we'll see what I got, and then I can explain, because with what little money I have, I've been ordering as much as I can to just really get this taken off. These are one of my more favorite things that I've encountered and that I plan on buying more of. Now, you're probably wondering, what am I even looking at? Okay, well, fair enough. These are pressed and dried flowers. Now, I'm not a botanist or anything, so I don't know specifically what kind of flowers, but I know they're very pretty and they're very flat. And that's going to help me, say, for example, if I want to make this this here jewelry stand, right? I think she's quite pretty. I might have already shown this on the channel. But I think when it's full of color like this, it's not everyone's taste. It might be a bit tacky for some people. Some people have very specific decor in their house. And so I think if I made one of these, for example, that is see-through with the epoxy just being clear, no colors, but I can add these for color or design of some kind, right? And that's not just for this. This is just the only thing that I have right now on hand that I can show you as an example. But you get the idea. I can make all sorts of, like photo frames, little paperweights that have like business card holders or phone picture holders. There's other things I can't think of the top of my head. Magnets, clear magnets. So yeah, this is fun. These were not cheap, and when I say cheap, they were about $3 a pop. When stuff comes from China, it's usually a lot less than that. But I am very, very, very happy with the quality. I mean, just look at how nice and complete, and they're so flat that I think that it's worth paying the $1 or $2 extra on top of the competition, you know, instead of buying the other ones that there are, because I have, and they're really pretty. They work just fine, but they'll be like this big. And if the thing I'm making is this thin, you know, anyway, that's one. Let's keep cracking. I'm just rambling on and on about it. I'm not even opening the unbox. Some unboxing, right? Okay, next thing. So these are flowers for do-it-yourself epoxy. A lot of this is going to be epoxy-based stuff. If you're not into that, I guess you could skip back to what we're doing with the wood. Oh, awesome. Here we go. I also got, you can barely tell what this is, but this is a battery-powered clock hand mechanism. And by that, I mean like I'll make an epoxy really big round clock, and I can install this in the middle, because even in the mold that I ordered, it has a gap where you can install these the little hands for the clocks and stuff, and I can sell them as handmade clocks. And who wouldn't want a custom designed American-made clock? You know, I mean, well, I don't really care for clocks, but you get what I mean. People used to buy cuckoo clocks and ornamental clocks just to look at. Probably still a thing to some people, right? Anyway, so that's another thing. We're excited to make clocks. So I got 2 different mechanisms because I got 2 different molds. But I don't want to get excited and overdo it and buy a whole bunch of stuff and then not make anything. So I bought them for practice. And if I like what I get out of it, I'll buy more of these. The mold I can just use over and over. Okay, so next one. Wow, that's a big one. All right, let's see what this is. This feels like a mold. It's very rubbery. I could already tell. All right. Yes. Okay, we're going to put this in the trash. Nothing there. We're going to put it in the trash. These are 2 different coaster molds. Okay, so this is the first one. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 15 different molds, but they're all the same size, right? And they're not too big, right? They're more for like, I guess, making magnets and stuff like that. But they have, I don't know if you could tell, they have ripples inside and they have this texture on the outside that'll make it look, in my opinion, very nice. But we also have these that are actually to make pairs of coasters. See, these 2 are the same size. And then these 2 are the same size. And then these 2 and these 2, right? Okay, cool. And they're plenty big, but you know, they usually only make packs of coasters of like 4. No one's gonna buy 50 coasters at one time. So I'm okay with this. And also with the other one, because the smaller ones, I won't use for coasters. They're too small. I'll probably use them as like magnets or maybe photo magnets or, you know, paperweights. There's different things you can do. So there's that. That's awesome. A shout out to my mom who helped me fund some of this, specifically these, because I have been buying stuff on my own with whatever I have, but she offered to help me invest and lent me some money to buy more products. So thank you very much, Mom. I'm going to put it to good use and work, obviously. Okay, and this is the very last one. That's it for this package. I am waiting for 2 more packages that are meant to have so much more. But who cares? I just wanted to share with you guys. Awesome. Okay. And then another thing that I got that I haven't received yet, you know, just like I didn't get the molds for this clock, right? I did order them at the same time. So they should be getting here anytime. Same for these. Okay, these, they don't really look like anything, right? But these are wine cork toppers, you know, like well, it's not for a wine cork. It's just, instead of having a piece of cork on your wine bottles, especially because some wine bottles are like screw off or like the cork maybe breaks while you're taking it off. I know it's happened to me. I bought epoxy molds that have different shapes, like a diamond and a hexagon and whatnot, that get installed into these. And so, and this wasn't even my idea. This was my mom's idea. So we'll put like flowers and really nice, intricate things, or like, I don't have them on me right now, but I have a whole bunch of like tiny little golden stars and moons and stuff, you know, like nice things you can put inside the epoxy. And then have like a very ornate, very fancy wine stop or top. I don't know what they're called. I just know they exist. And these are it. These are the bottoms. So they have the little rubber bit right here, the rib bit. You sink into the bottle so that it just stops the airflow. And you don't have to have some ugly cork. You have really fancy one, you know? So there's that. Those are the bronze ones. I also ordered some stainless steel ones because I know different folks have different strokes. Or is that how you say that? Anyway, that's it for the unboxing for this. I'm going to just go ahead and put all this away. And then I'll come back in, I think it's like 50, 45 minutes. We'll cut to where I'm finishing the wood, okay, for those fingerboard obstacles. All right, we'll see you in a bit. Hey, welcome back. I keep saying that, but I know I'm cutting this. It's probably sounding really weird to say welcome back after like the 5th time. So I'll try to relax with that. But it's finally been about an hour. And so it's been a little over, but I just like to make sure that it's more than enough. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the first of the plots that I have here from the ground. Awesome. Now, again, I really don't like to touch these things with my bare hands when they're still stained and not finished. But I just wanted to show you that I was going to put my gloves on. And although I usually like to save these more expensive, really well-fitting gloves for the high detail stuff. When it comes to adding the finish, so I'm struggling to put my glove on. When it comes to adding the finish to this wood, it's really important that you don't have like all these extra bits of plastic that will have some finish maybe from you brushing or whatever. And then you touch the board and then you have like puddles of the finish. At the end of the day, it'll dry off and it doesn't really affect much, but it will be visible. You can tell that there's just a little too much plastic goop in that one spot or whatever. So that's why I'm wearing these, even though I really want to wear the cheaper ones. But anyway, let's just get this started. So we have our board here. It came out quite nice. I like the brownish dirt color because that's the whole point, is that this is like an underneath dirt layer, right? For the whole park that we're going to do. So it's important that it's that particular color. Anyway, I did run out of dye while I was, the one that I mixed here. I had to remix during the process, like about 2 more batches, but it wasn't too bad. Actually, give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm just going to fast forward real quick, but I forgot to get something. 1 second. Okie dokie. All right, so I forgot. It's a good thing I didn't start yet. I had forgotten to grab these that I have in my hand. And also one of these. I already had told you that we were going to need foam brushes, so that's that. This, I'm just using a popsicle stick to, so I keep smacking the mic. I'm using this popsicle stick to slowly and gently stir the finish, because you do want the finish. It can separate over time, so you do want it to be well incorporated, but you don't want to mix it very rough or fast, because you'll add air bubbles to it. And when you start brushing, they might transfer over, and then you'll have a big plastic bubble, and that looks even uglier than the puddle I was talking about just a minute ago. Anyway, so the way this is going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and pour out some in my mixing bowl, my general purpose bowl, because you can also clean this off with alcohol since it's water-based. That's why I got that one. So we're going to put it in here. Because like I told you, once I start dipping the brush and putting the finish on, it'll start staining the actual brush and the content inside. It'll still give it a really nice clear finish, but I'm not sure how good it is to keep all that dye in the actual container when you put it away. So we pour out some separate and we use that on our project, okay? Just to make sure we're not mixing a whole bunch of dye on the nice clear finish. And then putting it away like that, right? So we're going to go ahead and start. I also have not said that this is going to be a multi-part series. I'm really hoping that I can do this in 2 parts. Long story short, every part is a day of my work. I'm going to finish today just finishing the 8 boards of these, and then I'm going to leave them to dry because I have to put a coat of finish on each of them. And then when it dries, I have to sand down just the top because this is the finished part that's going to look good. I have to sand it very lightly, excuse me, lightly, so that it's nice and smooth, so that when I add the other two layers of finish, it will look very smooth and nice. It's not so important if the bottom is perfectly smooth and nice because no one's going to play on the bottom. That's not really a thing that I'm worried about. It's important that it's all colored and it all looks uniform, but it's not so important that the bottom is sanded and everything. That's a little extra work that is never going to be noticed, okay? So I'm just going to do the finish here, do the coat, sand it, sorry, and then we'll do the other coats. And I'm probably going to do it the way I just did earlier because this is turning to a very long video. I'll go ahead and apply the coat. I'll cut to where I'm sanding, and then I'll cut to where I'm applying the other two coats separately. And then at the end, we'll do a little outro with the finished product and how it kind of looks different, okay? I might even keep one without finishing just to show you, and then, you know, do it on my own and finish off today. And then for part two, we're gonna go ahead and add more bits to it, right? The easiest part that we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and add the fountain. Now, I understand it might seem not so easy, but I promise it's very simple. This fountain bit here, it's not very hard to make, but we do have to make 8 of them tomorrow. So it is going to be time consuming. So hopefully we can do the fountain part and also the grass patches and stuff for tomorrow. And the holes here, see, as this one has screws, right, to mount everything together. So as you can see, it's quite a lot of work. It's not so much to do when it's one in one day. In fact, you could probably make a whole one in one day for yourself. But these I intend to sell, and I want to make them really well. But also I'm making 8 at one time. The last time I made a batch, I made 3, and it took me a week. So I'm going a lot faster, and I'm really good at it right now. I think I'm doing really good is what I meant to say. Anyway, I'm gonna start rambling, so I'll go ahead and be silent. I'm not gonna wear a respirator for this finish because it's not really that offensive to my nostrils. I've read it that it can cause cancer and other things, of course, if you're sniffing that all day. But I'm just gonna open up my doors and let the air flow through. Because it's not that strong. Honestly, the alcohol smell is much stronger than this finish that's water-based. But I would encourage you to not do as I do and do as I say when I tell you should always wear protection, okay? Of any kind. If it's not safe, don't do it. It's just not worth it sometimes. But anyway, I haven't felt any repercussions from it. I might just be full of it, so please don't take my word as law. I don't think it's too troubling to do this without a respirator. I think the paint particles and dye particles are much more dangerous. But I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. I'm just tired of wearing that on my face today. I've already worn it for like 2 hours. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and be quiet now, and we're just gonna start. I haven't tried it with this thick of a brush, but we're just going to go ahead and go for it. Now, when you apply finish, it's very important. Well, not very important, but it would be best if you can apply it in one go, just one layer like this. Now, that's obviously not what's happening here because the brush has not soaked in much of the finish yet. It's a brand new brush. So I'm going to do this pattern. I don't always recommend, but it's just so that I can brush it fully. What you really want to do is these long brushing motions, and usually not over the same spot, right? Again, my brush is just very dry right now, and I'm just waiting for the finish to sort of soak in and distribute a little more evenly. That was a bit better, see? I'll turn it around. And the reason you want to do this is because the more you go over it, the more you will deform the ridges and stuff that are being made by your brush. Even if it's a soft brush, a nice brush, a fine brush, brushes always leave marks, brush strokes. And that's not a problem, except it is if you just keep mounting the same stroke over and over. So I'll do like a couple, as you're seeing, but I won't come back here and then just do a whole thing again. That's it, okay? So I'm gonna do these little corners here. And the point of the finish is to seal the wood with the paint on it. I keep saying paint, dye, whatever you're doing, because the reality is, at least for alcohol dye, if it's not sealed, light or just the sunlight and also the air will react with it, and it will discolor and fade over time. But if you seal it, it's much less likely to do that because there's nowhere for it to go. If it's sealed, there's no possibility, or at least it's a lot harder for the chemicals to just float away because they're stuck underneath that layer of finish, right? That's also why you can touch after you finish finishing something, and it's not going to stain your hands because it'll have that nice coat of like plastic on top. Okay. Now I've just done the front on the top, and what I'm going to do now, actually, I'll finish off with the edges here. All right, these. But I will not do the bottom because it's important that the finish dries before I make it touch something. Because while it's still wet, it's very sticky, and when I unstick it, it's going to come off like a piece of old tape with all these markings and ugliness, and we don't want any of that. So we're going to paint everything on top and the sides one by one, all the other 7 that are over there, or 6, so I can show you a comparison. And then I'll come back and do the bottom, okay? All right, we'll see you in a bit. Hey, all right, so I just finished all the 7 pieces I was gonna finish, right? I have one left for comparison, so I'm not gonna finish that until the very end when the whole video is over. But anyway, I finished it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and sand it. As you can see, I have white gloves on top of my black gloves. What? Well, when you sand something, I think I told you, make a lot of dust. And definitely I don't want to be breathing in the tiny particles that float up of the finish or the dye. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on my rebreather, do the sanding, and then without a transition, we'll just go ahead and cut to me doing the other 2 coats on just one of these, and then we'll finish with the outro, okay? And I just wanted to explain that. Oh, sorry. And also, I don't know if you noticed, see that? I'm using this brush to finish. See how brown that is? Yeah, that definitely don't want to be mixing that and putting it back in the original bucket. That's why we're using our mixing bowl, right? And anyway, I'm gonna get sanding, and then as I'm sanding, I'll do a little transition. We'll do the other 2 coats, and then we'll finish off. I guess I forgot to mention in the very beginning that you'll need a sanding block. It's become obvious now, but I didn't have it ready. I'm sorry. Anyway. And that's it. That's it. Ready for the next layer of finish. Let's go. Final layer, or a coat, I should say. Little specks of something got on there. Okay. You might see me concentrating on the edges here, doing this, and that's usually because it's pretty difficult to get the coat all over if you're not extra careful like that. And I also do passes over the same spot, even though I said it's best that you don't do that, because this big brush has been giving me trouble, and I have to really like squeeze out. See that? The finish, it won't just come off the brush. I think it's so big that it just stays within the brush instead of being brushed on, which I didn't really think of that. I didn't know that that would be a thing, but now I know. Next time we'll use a smaller brush or accommodate and just make sure we know what we're doing with this big brush, right? Just watch the corners, make sure everything's well aligned. But I really like the texture it's leaving behind. Like I said, it does form a bit of a streak when you do it over and over like that. But I don't mind it too much in these projects because they're not a finished piece of furniture. They are a skate park themed toy. And I don't know if you've ever been to a skate park. I'm sorry if you haven't and you're a skater. They're pretty fun. You should try it. But what I'm trying to say is those skate parks are sometimes do it yourself. Sometimes they're made by other skaters and not even like actual city builders or anyone professionally. And so sometimes they have a lot of imperfections, but you can still skate. Anyway, rambling. That's the final coat. So that's going to be it for today. I'm going to go ahead and transition into an outro. And then in the outro, we'll go ahead and, finish up. And then I'll show you this one all dried up. And then I'll show you the other one that I didn't put any finish on. And then you could be the judge and tell me if there's any difference or if there's even a reason to put a finish on. Because I think once you see the difference, you're going to go, wow, that makes it way better. See you for the outro. All right, everybody. So welcome to the outro. We're finally ending the video. So I've been doing some thinking while I was doing the finishes and waiting for the coats and sanding and whatnot. I think it really is going to turn out to be a 3-part video. 3. I don't know if you could see my fingers in that. It's going to be 3 parts simply because I'm starting to realize it's a lot of work and it's 8 of them. I do have plenty of time left in the day to do more work, but I am going to leave it off for tomorrow because the whole point of this is I'm making parts so that they're easier to digest, they're not so long, and hey, maybe you're in a different stage at each part, right? And you don't want to be clicking through a 3-hour video like I said earlier, so we're just going to go ahead and cut it off here. I did, however, save one of the finishes without finishing, so watch. This is what I mean, because I said that totally wrong. But anyway, here we go. I'm going to stand a little back. There we go. Sit back a little. So this one is our unfinished product. In fact, it's the first one. You could tell right there because this is the stains we were talking about earlier. Okay. So it does have a bit of a sheen to it because there's lights reflecting on it. It does look fine, sure, but it's unfinished. There is no finish on this at all. It's just the dye. Now compare this with this. It's almost a whole different color, and it really makes the grain and all the lines in the wood pop out. And I'll put them side by side now so you can really tell. And I'll try to do oh, there we go there. I mean, what a difference. The top one really looks like a piece of driftwood or a dry board on a ship, on a water ship, not like a spaceship. They're not made of wood. But this bottom one looks almost new, like it was made not out of wood, but it's definitely wood. See that? I really like how this pops compared to just having it like this. But either way, I wouldn't just have it like this because like I told you, if I just leave it like this, just touching it stains everything. That's why the finish is very important. Not only does it seal all that and it doesn't stain anything and it stays in there and doesn't come off with the sun or anything else, but it even makes it pop. If you get some nice quality that meshes well with your dye, like this water-based one, that water does mix with alcohol. So it mixed really well with this dye. Anyway, that's, you know, wow, what a difference, right? And so now you're fully aware of how to get started with one of these. Like I said, I know I didn't start from the very beginning, you know, cutting the boards up and putting them together, but that would have been a much longer video. And if you can get yourself to the point where you can make one of these, how many more steps is it to get here? Not much. But hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative. The whole reason I'm doing this is because I want people to learn how to be creative and free with their knowledge, and just do what they like, you know? So I hope you liked it. I'm really excited to get more of this done tomorrow. And we'll see you then, part 2. Bye, guys. I love you, Alara.